You take your top performing organic piece of creative, you turn it into an ad, and you watch the money roll in because the algorithm has already validated that creative. So I did this for the last 2 weeks with about $100 in ad spend per day, and the results frankly were not what I was expecting across all 3 of the locations that I ran this campaign. And here's the weird part. The ad absolutely crushed, did better than any other ad engagement wise, sharing wise that I'd ever run, but the campaign was not profitable. So what I ended up doing is I had a post that hit like 2 million or 1 million views on Instagram. It was all about like nostalgic training, Nebraska in the 80s, and using that same style of training but doing it in a modern way. And I had that video which hooked really well, and then I cut it into an ad just talking about, hey, if you want to train with these same kind of fundamentals, come, train with us. And I had that call to action at the end and put some real spend behind it. And all the top of funnel metrics, the engagement, etc., crushed, but back end of that in terms of actual throughput of the whole funnel and sales system, it freaking flopped. So starting over here at the hook rate, look at this, a 53, 52, and a 50% hook rate. And these are all at the different locations, Santa Monica, South Bay, and Guilford, Connecticut. So that just tells you that 1 out of 2 people that saw this video stopped and watched at least the first 3 seconds. And like if you ask Meta, a good hook rate is like in the 20s to 30s. So I knew this was kind of getting people's attention and keeping it. Then from there, when you kind of look at some of the engagement, now I don't usually get a ton of engagement on my ads, who's usually liking ads or commenting on stuff. But this one right out the gates had like 30 or 40 likes. We had 3 comments. We had people sharing this on top of their story. One guy commented on the thing, "This is great marketing." Now I'm not used to getting that level of engagement on my ads, right? Comments, shares, all that top of funnel stuff. I'm like, hey, these are what people usually talk about with great creative. I'm seeing it on my ads. We might be onto something here. But the throughput of leads and calls booked absolutely sucked. So how could that be the case? That the ads are absolutely smashing, that we're getting a ton of engagement, but there's no leads coming through. And the small amount of leads that we did have coming through were absolutely horrible quality. Well, the reason is because message market fit. This was a message market fit disconnect for this offer. The type of person that this ad was attracting was not the right fit for the offer. So the whole funnel didn't have enough throughput coming through because of that. Now, there's a lot of things that go into a profitable ad campaign. You've got the ad, you've got the angle and the appeal, the message market fit. You've got the landing page, you've got your sales system on the back end, and then you've got your follow-up lead nurture process. But as I look at this campaign and why this ad crushed, the first thing I need to check out is, okay, was it the landing page's problem? So you can see here we've got this sort of aesthetic hook of the video that we've talked about, that nostalgia aesthetic. And then when I look at the landing page, it's like, okay, I'm still mirroring that kind of idea of back then versus us today. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's a good sort of line for this avatar. And then a local gym based on the timeless principles of old school strength and conditioning. So to me, that's like a close enough connective tissue. An example of what that wouldn't be is if I just had a picture of a skinny chick doing some booty exercises that said Pilates for everybody or something like that, right? That would be a dramatic example of a massive disconnect. But when you have that connective tissue and that scent trail from clicking of the ad to the same thing on the landing page, that's a key piece that you need to have. So I knew that was here on this one. I also knew, because I duplicated this landing page from a couple other campaigns that were having more success than this one, that I knew it wasn't fundamentally something wrong with the lander because it was duplicated from a working campaign. And then when you look at the metrics of something like this, it's just really dismal. You're looking at, okay, only 8% of the people entered the quiz. Most of the throughput here was good, but you only had a 9% opt-in rate. And you look at your overall conversion percentage, was just not that strong. And now if you've got a really high ticket offer and you're selling something expensive, maybe 6 leads is okay, but for this offer in this market, it just wasn't going to be profitable. Now compare that to something that's been running a lot less time that looks more like message market fit. So this, we're running a high school athlete or a prep or a middle school athlete strength and conditioning program. You can see we've got a 21% quiz entry, which is almost 3 times as high. And then all the way down to the throughput and opting in at 12%. You can see we've got 89 leads and every metric is higher. Well, maybe it's just that market that happened. Well, look at what this message did in a different market. It didn't have quite as high of that first entry point, but I'm getting 93 conversions off of this thing. A lot of these are booking calls, and those calls are materializing in our first $199 sale and then a broader, bigger package after that. So even though this message, this creative wasn't profitable, it's still a win. It's still a win because I can take that idea off of the whiteboard and I can move it into the game and I can try it and I can say, okay, it wasn't profitable, and now I can move on to other ideas so I don't keep sinking time into something that isn't going to be profitable. So where does that leave us? Is the advice wrong? No, the advice is still right. You take your top performing organic creative and you spin it into an ad because the organic algorithm has already proven that that is good creative that people are interested in. But remember, engagement doesn't mean that the offer is right for the avatar. So what you have to do is you find your universal set of problems that your product solves for a different combination of avatars. And what you do is you ride that combination all the way to happy money land.